What's up YouTube, Chris here with Salty Island Games, and today's video is going to be a little bit different. The purpose of this is we're going to be checking out the Tyranids. Like I mentioned in the previous video, the goal of this series is I'm going to build, paint, and learn to play a combat patrol level of an army I have never played before. The idea is to try and give as natural of a look for new players as to the thought process and kind of how I go about putting together a new army, and give you guys a natural look so you can see and kind of maybe get a little bit of insight on how to build a new 40k army. A couple of things. First one is if you have a 9th edition codex, go and get the 9th edition codex. But due to the COVID and the difficulty that's been going on in the world, effectively half the armies out there don't have a 9th edition codex. And if that's the case, as you can see on the screen here, I have the GW app. I do pay for the app. Right now it's a pretty good deal because the app does give you all of the 8th edition codexes for free. As the 9th edition one is released, they'll essentially take down the 8th edition one, and they'll give you like an abridged version of the 9th edition codex where you can actually see things like power level and some stat lines. They don't give you all the hot spicy flavors and the strats and whatnot, but it's more than enough where if you just kind of wanted to use it as a baseline, you can get the job done on that one. But for things like Tyranids, you get the pretty much the full set of rules. It's Tyranids. Here we go. Tyranids. Bam. All right. So the first thing that I do when I go ahead and look into it, I got to figure out what Tyranids do. For those of you who don't know Tyranids, if you've ever played StarCraft, you got the Zerg. Zerg Rush is absolutely a thing. The other one, you might have jokingly heard the term Nidzilla. That's where you take just all the biggest models that you can find and you go stomp around the table with big stompy monsters. Both of them are actually totally viable ways to play Tyranids. The first thing that we're going to do here is let's take a look at the Detachment Abilities. Extension of the Hive Mind. Alright, so you've got Hive Fleets. If your army's Battle Forge, all troops and Tyranids gain. So if it's within range of an objective marker, you get to control the marker, even if there are more enemies models within range, unless they have the same ability. So it's basically the objective secured. So this is the first of the spicy rules here. You get to pick a Hive Fleet. Alright, let's take a look at the Hive Fleet adaptations. Alright, so Behemoth, reroll failed charge rolls for units with this adaptation. Alright, that's actually pretty solid. Obviously just going to let everyone know, these are 8th edition rules. They are not nearly as good as 9th edition rules, which is why, if you noticed when we did the bat reps, the 9th edition armies, I tried to pair up the 9th edition armies versus 9th edition and 8th edition against 8th edition, because in all truth, those 9th edition, the power creep is real. So these are 8th edition. So if you're like, man, these are jank compared to some of the 9th edition books, yeah, they're jank. Just not even gonna hide it. It'll get better obviously once the 9th edition books come out. So Behemoth, all about that charge. That's pretty good for that Zerg rush, close combat. Either Nidzilla or for a Zerg, tiny Zerg rush. See, we got Gorgon, reroll wound rolls of 1 in the fight phase. That's pretty solid. It's an army wide, so that's actually pretty great too, but it is specific to the fight phase also. Hydra, swarming instincts. You can reroll hit rolls in the fight phase for units with this adaptation that target units containing fewer models than their own. Alright, so this one is very specific to if you're playing that Zerg Rush, and if you are just going to swarm the table with as many little models as you can, which might be interesting. I don't know about painting that many models. There is something to be said for Nidzilla in that you don't have to paint as many models. Jormungandr always has the benefits of cover for the purpose of shooting attacks. If the unit advances or declares a charge, it loses the benefit until the start of your next movement phase. Alright, so this was alright in 8th. It's much better in 9th. They have clarified for the purpose of rules that are worded like this, it's light cover, which is the +1 to your armor save. Giving your small guys like a bit of an armor save, and actually giving the bigger guys a pretty respectable armor save. The nice thing about it though, unlike things like the Alpha Legion or the Raven Guard, this one always applies. It doesn't go away if you're within 18 or something like that. So this is actually 8th edition wise not bad. Kraken. All right, when a unit with this adaptation advances, roll 3 dice instead of 1, Pick the highest to add to the move. In addition, units can fall back and charge. Roll 3 and pick 1 for advancing is whatever. Fall back and charge is nice because you get the strike first ability. Alright, Chronos, Bile Barrage. Reroll hit rolls of 1 for units with this adaptation in your shooting phase if they didn't move. So Chronos is your shooting army. I think this is kind of the only dedicated shooting one. I don't think I'll be playing Chronos, but it's viable. Alright, lastly, Leviathan. Roll a d6 each time a unit with this adaptation loses a wound while within 6 of a friendly Synapse unit from the same Hive Fleet. On a 6, the damage is ignored. The unit does not lose a wound. Ignore this adaptation on a unit currently afflicted by the Catalyst Psychic Power. Okay, this one's not great. One, it relies on the Synapse mechanic, which is shit. It's a bad mechanic. Tyranids, in my opinion, are the only army whose unique army mechanic penalizes them, as opposed to every other army in the game whose unique mechanic benefits them. And so Tyranids are not a great army to begin with, and they have a mechanic that penalizes them already, like as their special flavor. Their special flavor is to suck more. So obviously I think in 9th edition I hope that changes where Synapse becomes a buff rather than a debuff. But for now, with the 8th edition, it's not great. And this one here also not that great. A 6-up Feel No Pain is not fantastic. Also, it doesn't work with Catalyst. All right. So what do we got here? Chronos and Leviathan. Nothing wrong with people who play Chronos. There's some very cool stuff in there, but I'm not feeling the shooting on this one. And Leviathan, like I said, I don't really care for Leviathan's ability. The question is do I want to paint a ton of models? If I do, then Hydra sounds a lot of fun to just swarm the table with as many little miniatures as I can. Probably not Jormungandr. So I'm kind of leaning towards Hydra, Gorgon, and Behemoth. That's the 3 we got based on their Hive Fleet. And let's take a look at the next favorite thing is Warlord Traits. Like I love the Warlord Traits, especially in a 25 power level, 500 points, combat patrol. Because you're playing such a small army, your HQ does have a much bigger impact on the game than maybe when you play 2,000 points and you have a lot of models. So the Warlord trait actually comes into play quite a bit, and if you've seen from some of our bat reps, it's actually made or break the game for some of the armies. End of the fight phase. Warlord suffers any wounds for the remainder of the battle. When inflicting damage on the Warlord, reduce damage by 1, whatever. Alien Cunning at the start of the first battle round, but before the first turn begins, you can remove your Warlord, set them up again. So basically, re-deep strike your Warlord. Oh, it's at the start of the first battle round, before the first turn begins. So it's more of a redeploy your Warlord. They also don't get to take another unit with them. That's pretty meh. No, probably not. Heightened Senses. No penalties on hit rolls. Yeah, whatever. Endless Regeneration. Roll a dice for each wound your Warlord has lost on a 6. For each roll of 6, your Warlord regains a wound lost in the battle. That's not bad. Oh, that's Hydra. Alright, sorry. Skip that one. Tyranid trait. Beginning of the battle, before the first turn, choose an enemy unit. Reroll failed hit rolls for the Warlord for attacks that target that unit. Whatever. Mind Eater. Each time a Warlord slays an enemy command or enemy character in the fight phase, choose a friendly Hive Fleet unit within 3. At the end of the phase, that unit can move and advance as if it were your movement phase. That's pretty mediocre also. Alright, Synaptic Linchpin adds 6 to the range of the Warlord's Synapse ability. We'll go into what Synapse is in a little bit, but for now, that's probably like the best one of the generic. So there's not much. That's not very great. These are pretty weak. Let's look at the specific ones. Behemoth. Each time you make a wound roll of 6+ for the Warlord, inflicts 1 additional damage. Whatever. Leviathan. Once per battle, reroll a single hit roll, wound roll, damage roll, advance. Or what? Once per battle, you can reroll a single hit roll, wound roll, damage, advance, charge, or saving throw made for your Warlord. Really, just get one reroll of 1 dice. That's pretty sad. No, I'm not taking that. Kronos, whenever your enemy psyker fails a psychic test within 18, suffer D3 mortal wounds. That's hilarious. It actually makes Kronos pretty good. That's pretty hilarious. That's actually the first respectable Warlord trait in this list. Jormungandr. Enemy units never gain any bonus to their saving throws for being in cover for attacks made by the Warlord or friendly Jormungandr units within 3 of the Warlord. That's not bad. Hydra. At the beginning of your turn, roll a dice. Yeah, this is the one that I like. I like Hydra. Gorgon. At the end of the fight phase, roll a d6 for each enemy unit within 1 inch of the Warlord. On a 4+, that unit suffers a mortal wound. It's like baby smite, like a free baby smite, I guess. As someone who's mained Thousand Suns for a while, it adds up. And not the fight phase. So you get 2 fight phases. You get your fight phase, and you get your opponent's fight phase. So it doesn't specify whose fight phase. Just at the end of the fight phase. So Hydra. Hydra again seems to be my favorite Warlord trait. Alright, let's go. The last thing is Relics. Alright, so these are the big 3 where you get something specific. Let's take a look here. Let's look at the generic relics. We'll just kind of skim them. I'm not going to read them out loud because there's a lot. We're just going to see if I like any of them. We're going to go with the generics first. Alright, these are all... I'm going to try to avoid the guns. I would want a relic that kind of buffs or augments the army. But we'll see. Let's see here. Here we go. That's... Alright, so you got some sabers. Make 1 additional attack. Yeah. AP -2, 3 damage, whatever. That's kind of whatever to me. Maw Claws. The model slays an enemy model. You can reroll all failed hit rolls in all subsequent fight phases, but you gotta kill someone first. Just any enemy model though, so you can smash it into a bunch of like trash and then go to town following that. Not terrible. Not great. Miasma Cannon. Well, kind of decided that we're not going to do a shooting army. So, I'm going to skip over that one. Norn Crown. Don't suffer the penalties to their hit roll and charge rolls incurred from the instinctive behavior whilst they're within 30 of this model. Okay. This is actually pretty good. Like I said, when you are outside of the synapse range, basically when you're far away from the big, kind of psychically powerful Tyranids, you take penalties, which is dumb. This, on the other hand, basically says you don't take the penalties while you're within 30 of this model, which is a pretty respectable range because it's 30-inch in all directions of the model. So effectively a 60-inch bubble. This might not be bad. Reaper of Obliterax. Models with Lash Whip and Bone Sword. But double damage is pretty nice if you're smashing into something. Doesn't help the saves though. So people can still make saves against these. Ymgarl Factor. Oh, so you get a random buff. The random is not great. Alright. Let's look at the Hive Fleet specific ones. You guys are kind of getting the idea that the Hive's fleets are kind of where it's at. 2 Death Spitters, right? Hydra. Oh, Hydra's a gun. Hydra is not the greatest on this one. Leviathan's got the Slayer Sabers. If an infantry or biker model suffers damage from this weapon, but is not slain, roll a d3 at the end of the fight phase. If the result is greater than the model's remaining wounds, it's slain. Oh, that's pretty nice actually. Let's see what else we got here. Behemoth, another melee weapon. Oh, this one's better though. Replaces monster scything talons. Strength +1, AP -3, 3 damage. That's pretty nice. In addition, each time you make a hit roll of 6, make an additional hit roll. Nice. Additional hit rolls cannot generate further hit rolls. Fair. Behemoth. Behemoth is actually pretty good. I kind of like that. I'm going to make a note for this one. Let's see what else we got. Jormungandr, Infrasonic Roar. Enemy units within 6 inches of this model subtract 1 for their leadership. Whatever. Gorgon. From the end of the first phase, where this model suffers any wounds, add 1 to its toughness for the remainder of the battle. It's not bad. That is pretty good. I'm gonna make a note as a maybe. Kraken. Subtract 1 from all hit rolls for ranged weapons that target this model. Yeah, Kraken. Pretty good. If I was doing shooting, Kraken. Kronos. It's got a gun. Oh, no invulnerable saves. That's actually pretty nice. The no invulnerable saves is pretty nice. Pretty good. Alright. So what here we got? Here's what we got. We can go Hydra for the adaptation and the Warlord trait. We can go Gorgon and Behemoth for the adaptation and the Relic, which I like. How about the Warlord traits? Let's take a quick skim back at Behemoth and Gorgon. Gorgon, the Warlord is in close combat. You can dish out a couple mortal wounds. And Behemoths, make a wound roll of 6. Fight phase, the attack inflicts 1 additional damage. Think I like Gorgons better. I think mortal wounds are very powerful because you don't need to roll to wound. You don't get any saves. So Gorgon, maybe Gorgon. All right. So here's what we got. We're probably going to be playing Gorgon. All right, so that's roughly where I like to start when it comes to building out an army. Take a quick glance at the abilities, kind of get an idea about what they do based on what I know about them. Tyranids have a lot of tiny little angry teeth and spiky pointy fingers and hands. My idea was I wanted to do a very close combat themed army. In the next video, what we'll do is we're going to take a look at some units. So I want to take a quick moment. We do appreciate everyone supporting the channel. One thing that really helps us out is if you can go ahead and click that subscribe button down there right below. That lets us know that you like this kind of content and would like to see more of it. Hope to see you back here for the next video when we put together an army list. We're going to be looking for 25 power level. Thanks for checking us out. Peace out, everyone.